Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this webcast for Landmark College. The topic for tonight is alumni and current student stories. My name is Chris Lenois. I'm the Director for Marketing and Communications here, and I'll be your moderator this evening. Just one quick bit of housekeeping before I introduce the panel, and that is how to ask questions of the panel. As this broadcast goes along, if any questions come to mind, please use the Q&A button and submit those questions, and I will be feeding them to the students and alumni as warranted. So thank you. We definitely will leave time for questions and encourage them whenever they come to you. So I'd like to start by introducing our Associate Director of Alumni Relations, Tricia Stanley. Good evening, Tricia.
Hi, thank you. I'm so happy to be here tonight. Our theme is always moving forward, and I'm so happy that our alumni are here to kind of represent that, talk about their stories, and just bring some light into kind of what life is like after Landmark. And I'd like to pass off to Sydney.
Thanks, Tricia. My name's Sydney Ruff, and I am the Director of Admissions at Landmark, as well as I work with our campus ambassadors. And we have 3 students here tonight that will each share a little bit of their story. And then we'll continue introducing the rest of the panelists. And then, like Chris said, we'll go into some questions. They're going to share a little bit about their history and also what their experience is like now. And I'm really excited to start things off with Jonathan.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Garrity. I'm a third-year student at Landmark College, and I'm a computer science major.
Jonathan, you could go into the rest of your story, and then we'll pass it off to Katie.
Oh, okay, sure. So I started at Landmark College in the fall of 2018. I actually took the tour of the school about a year earlier, right before I graduated from high school, but I took a gap year because I didn't know if college was going to be the right thing for me. When I took the tour of Landmark, I was floored by the school. It felt welcoming for a person who's on the autism spectrum like I am. I didn't get a diagnosis for that until much, much later in life than a lot of people who are diagnosed on the spectrum. So I sort of had to play catch up while most students in my situation had some experience with their neurodivergent situations that would arise. I didn't have any experience with it, so I sort of had to learn as I went along, and I feel like Landmarks really helped me sort of come out of that shell that I'd started out in. Like I mentioned, I'm a computer science major. I had recently gotten my associates, and I even became a resident assistant for one of the halls on campus.
Great. Thanks, Jonathan. Next up will be Katie.
Oh. Hi, everyone. My name is Katie Marroni. I'm from Massachusetts, town of North Andover. And this is my senior year at Landmark. I've been here 8 semesters now. Before Landmark, I was at a previous college that I went to right out of high school. And a few months in, realized I was not at all prepared for going into college with a learning disability, that I had no way to advocate for myself. Like, those aren't skills that they really teach you once you're diagnosed. And so I dropped out of that school and took a gap year. But during that gap year, was kind of exploring my options, looked at wanting to go back to that college eventually, but then my dad had found Landmark College just from looking up schools for students with learning disabilities. And I was still at that time going through kind of denial, because I didn't want to believe that I was being hindered by this learning disability, which I was diagnosed with a nonverbal learning disability a little before my senior year of high school. And while getting that diagnosis was really great, it really didn't do much for getting help both in high school and trying to go into college right out of high school, especially because there's not very much information on nonverbal learning disabilities as of right now. It's a very recent diagnosis that isn't even in the DSM, so it takes a lot of explaining to do, and people like first hear of it and say nonverbal, but like you're talking to me, and I have to be kind of constantly explaining myself that I just have more difficulty with the nonverbal aspects of learning. So I can obviously, verbal is actually a strength for me. I can talk things out very well, but if I try to write them down, expressing them in writing, or trying to like read and understand abstract concepts, I draw a blank. There's something that I've described as like kind of like a missing wire in my brain that doesn't let me like get all of my like verbal flow into writing, which left me with a lot of like confusion and frustration, because I knew I could do it and say these things, but even a second later trying to put it into writing was impossible. But after a year of kind of come to terms with my diagnosis, I decided to visit Landmark, still in some kind of like hesitancy, thinking like I've tried everything at this point. What could be so different about Landmark, especially after so many like academic support offices in different schools claiming they could help me, but then when I present my problems, they're like, we haven't seen anything like this before, so they couldn't. But when I mentioned my diagnosis upon visiting Landmark, they already knew what it was. They already, albeit it still is very like the basic knowledge, but they knew what I was talking about and was also willing to hear me out about my own experiences. And so I immediately felt like this place at least knows what it's doing, but will I get anything out of it? And so my first semester, I'll admit, was really difficult because I kind of went into that semester expecting like I would be like flying through, get like led through every single step. But it is a college, so you have to do some self-management and actually like seek out the many resources that Landmark had available. And I think I was kind of just naive in thinking that I was going to just be like handheld through the process. But I had a first semester class there with a professor, and it was kind of a writing-based class, which is my weakness. And so we had a writing assignment that was classwork, and like I'm looking around, everyone else is already writing like a paragraph, and I'm still stuck on the first sentence. And so I get into this thought loop thinking this is the same thing all over again. What am I going to do? Like getting noticeably anxious and stressed. And this professor comes over, like noticing me right away, and she kneels down and is like we'll get through this together. If like, and she's like, you're crying is gonna make me cry. She was very empathetic, and she said like, come after class so that we can work out a skeleton of your writing. It doesn't have to be this big thing. And I just thought, wow, no teacher has ever taken the patience to walk through that process with me before, or even acknowledge that I was like having distinct trouble and not just slacking off. So that was a monumental moment for me starting at Landmark. And now 8 semesters later, I thought I would only be here for maybe like 2 semesters. But after realizing how valuable the support here is, I've decided I've graduated with my associates last spring in liberal studies, and am now on my way to getting my bachelor's in psychology.
Thank you so much, Katie. I always appreciate your description of the NVLD diagnosis, because I think that it's one that we often don't have a lot of information on, and you just answered that beautifully. So thank you so much for sharing your story. Gerald, do you want to take it away?
Most definitely. Hi, everybody. My name is Gerald Belton. I am from Fort Washington, Maryland, and my diagnosis is ASD and ADHD. Growing up, I wanted to explore the United States, and I learned more about myself growing up as well. And by the time I graduated high school, I wasn't really sure what to do. So I went to community college, and I had a very stressful 3 years. I didn't know if I belonged there. I didn't know if the people there liked me or not. And the people that did like me, they eventually went away in a semester or two, which left me very isolated and alone, sadly. When I got my second diagnosis of me being on the spectrum, my mom actually found Landmark College for me. And I was very anxious and hesitant on going because it was way far out in Vermont, and me living in Maryland all my life, I wasn't really sure what was it like when I visited there. I was very surprised about how beautiful Vermont is. And when I visited the campus over the summer, I was amazed by the amount of the nicest, coolest people I've ever met in my life. And the next day, I actually got a tour from one of the campus ambassadors that has long since graduated Landmark. And I felt like this was the college for me. On my first semester there, my first semester here, I was amazed. The teachers were amazing. The people were always amazing. And the RAs and the RDs are also amazing as well. The clubs, I've had a lot of fun on the club so far. One of which, the CS club, it kind of motivated me to enroll in a bachelor for computer science after graduating with a liberal arts degree back in spring of 2019. I have been more motivated to do better and to be better academically and socially for my life and for my friends as well, because I've had one of the best times of my life here. And if I were to go through this all over again, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Thanks so much, Gerald. I think I know in speaking with you, I just wanted to make sure that you had a chance to talk about one of the centers that really helped you out. Did you want to mention that?
Oh, definitely. The Center for Diversity and Inclusion was one of the clubs that I went to for my first semester. And the Rise Up Center also helped me to be more comfortable in the campus as well. And also, I forgot to mention that I'm a part of an internship with this one company called Turk, as me and 3 other students were collaborating with other co-developers on this one VR project that's supposed to be educational and geared towards students with learning difficulties and stuff. And I am very excited for the game to be finalized and to come out.
Well, now we are too. Thanks so much, Gerald, for sharing. We appreciate it. Tricia, I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, so Tricia here again from Alumni Relations, and I'm just going to start by kind of also describing our alumni. They're all volunteers and part of our Alumni Advisory Board, and a big piece of that is that they represent the Alumni Association. There's 13 members that stretch across the West Coast and East Coast, and we used to have a few international alumni, and we're seeking to do that again. A big piece of what they do is, as members, is serve as mentors. A lot of them were student leaders, and you'll hear their stories in a second. And from that, they stayed connected with college. They serve as ambassadors, they participate in events on and off campus, and they work to support the college, especially my office, in different aspects like fundraising, networking, and kind of working through the college's strategic plan. They also provide a lot of guidance in career. They have a lot of committee work. They have an engagement committee, a research committee, and a mentoring committee. And within those, they have subcommittees, things like homecoming and reunion, a lot of our, spirit events. Also, they do a lot of stuff around mock interviews, college fairs, and providing guidance through LinkedIn. And so I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and we'll hear from everybody a little bit later about how they are involved with the college or how they've stayed involved in the college. So I would love to invite Chris to go ahead and share his kind of intro and his alumni story.
Well, thank you, Tricia. Hi, everybody. Christopher Mathey. I came to Landmark, so it's great when I'm hearing about all these stories. I can relate to each one that we've heard so far. You see, when I first came to Landmark, which was in the fall of 2001, I was one of, I think, 6 students who were part of this, let's call it like a prototype experiment to see if if the program could work for people who were on the spectrum, autistic spectrum in some capacity. And so it's great to see that we've had ASD in various ways represented already tonight. So my heart is lifted because of it. So let's see here. Came to Landmark in 2001. I had essentially 2 options as I saw it. And the first option was to go join the military, and I was convinced I would do that beginning at age 13. I was convinced that I would join the Coast Guard specifically, and I did everything to take my mechanical engineering related courses, and I was certain that I was going to be flying the Eurocopter Dauphine, the specific kind of helicopter that the Coast Guard uses, and I went through the whole process of trying to be filtered into the Coast Guard. And it was because of my recent diagnosis of, at the time at least, of nonverbal learning disability, combined with my really bad vision, that they said, sorry, but if you lose your glasses, you're no good to us. And I said, well, that hurts, but okay, thanks. And very long story short, unsure what I was going to be doing with myself, an opportunity came about through this VHS, a video cassette opportunity of take a look at Landmark College, plug this into my VCR, and I watched it. And I thought, holy cow, this is unheard of. There are people like me elsewhere. And so anyway, to wrap this part up, I stayed, and I started in what at time was called non-credit, pre-credit skills development courses. And I did that for a semester, and that changed my life in profound ways. So when I tell you that Landmark gave me my life back, I am serious, and I mean it sincerely. So I graduated in 2004. Between 2001 and 2004, I had done several things. First, I had successfully acquired a 4.0 GPA every semester. And at my graduation, I received the Academic Dean's Award for doing that first, which was a first in the college's history. But also throughout that time, I had, I won't say started, co-created is a better descriptor of the charitable organic garden project, because I love to garden. But I also joined in with first becoming the vice president and then the president of the Beta Alpha Epsilon chapter of Phi Theta Kappa at Landmark. And then I was also a resident assistant for 2 years in Davis Hall, which at that time was a substance-free and quiet living arrangement. So also at graduation, I also received the President's Award. And so I had also become the first student, or first, I guess you would say, graduate to receive both awards at the same time at a commencement exercise. When I tell you that Landmark was the springboard to everything else in my life, I sincerely mean it. So I'll do my best to wrap up everything else over the last 15, 20 years in like 1 minute. I received a Presidential Leadership Scholarship to attend Hobart College in Geneva, New York. I also became a resident advisor there, which is sort of like in between being a resident assistant and a resident dean. I had taken on the responsibility of several theme houses, including Hobart College's Honors House. I also received both the President's Public Service Award and the Dean's Citizenship Award just days before my commencement. I took some time off between my bachelor's and the start of my master's to help my parents out and with some family matters. And then I moved down to Houston, Texas 2 weeks before Hurricane Ike hit. And that was a learning curve of all sorts. Anyway, I went to the University of Houston Clear Lake, got my master's there in sociology with two foci, first one being economic sociology, and then the second one being crime, law, and deviance. Fast forward to today, I am officially a doctoral candidate of sociology at Texas A&M University. And my foci represent my background. So I look at disability studies, I look at military society studies, medicine, and ultimately, long story short, I'm married now, and that's probably one of the best accomplishments I could have, because I've said this before and I'll say it again. My mother once said, "Honey, I am so glad that you have found somebody who gets you, because I am your mother and I just don't get you." So anyway, with all that being said, I'm now going to step off to the side and introduce our friend, Genevieve Friend-Land, graduate of 1996.
Thank you very much, Chris. And like you, I also had a VHS tape from Landmark. I think they'll be collector's items. Like Chris said, I graduated in 1996, and I think also, like Katie touched on, I had a very late diagnosis in life. It was senior year of high school and after high school, before starting Landmark College. I took a year at a private prep school for students with learning disabilities to up my skills, because I was in no way ready for the rigorous program at Landmark, whether it was credit or non-credit. So I did that for a year, really upped my skills, and then I started at Landmark College in '93, and I started in the non-credit program, which was a little upsetting to me at the time, but in hindsight, it was a blessing, because I definitely was not ready for the credit level classes. But after non-credit for a year, I did not credit classes for 2 years and graduated in '96. From there, it was a springboard to getting my bachelor's degree in business. And then I took some time off. And then when I got laid off right after 9/11, I took that opportunity to get my master's degree in business, which I ended up graduating with a 4.0 GPA. So very proud of that. Why I'm on student leadership role, I like to give back to the college that gave so much to me. And it's not only just giving back to the college, but all the students that go there. And if you look at the bigger picture, I myself am very successful. Everybody here on this webcast is very successful. And it's just giving back to the community at large. And it's just this huge ripple effect. So I like being a part of that on the student leadership board. I've been involved in AAB. Gosh, my son just turned 10. So when he was an infant, I just joined. So it went by in a flash, being on AAB and my son growing up. I've been in leadership role as a secretary, because I just love taking notes. I learned somewhere great how to take 2-column notes, which I still do. And so I volunteer for the secretary note-taking position, and I love it. With that said, I still take 2-column notes. I still highlight. I still purchase books for my oldest daughter, who's in junior high school. I purchase textbooks for her just so that she can highlight and write in them. And I teach her all those skills that I learned at Landmark. Landmark, how does it affect me today? Seriously, it's in every aspect of my life, from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep. I have 3 young kids, elementary and 1 junior high schooler. So schooling from home these days, I'm bouncing between the three of them. I started an educational nonprofit. That's a kind of the true version of homeschool before COVID homeschool. So it's an enrichment business that I co-founded. My experience from Landmark, I was able to research, acquire a state nonprofit status, and then also acquire the federal nonprofit status, which is the 501c3. We're actually a C6, which is emphasizes the education part of it. I am the financial person for my nonprofit, and I also am looking to start, separate from that, I'm looking to start another business, and Landmark taught me organization. Now I get paid to do it, and I'm starting a business. I kind of fell into it, and just by one person, helping one person out, a gentleman, an elderly gentleman was a hoarder, so I'm working with his power of attorney, cleaning out his condo. And just by that one job, I've now referred, and I have a calendar set forth of future jobs. So I am partnering with another friend of mine and incorporating that business during my free time. And then I have an idea for a utility patent, which is taking something of a specific use, like a water bottle, and then you use it for a totally different use, but you're not reinventing the item. So I'm trying to see how I can fit that in and apply for that utility patent. So with everything going on, organization is key, time management, reminders. I had to mute my cell phone because I have reminders going off of my kids' tutoring and this event and warnings and everything. Prioritizing, researching, and so Landmark is kind of in every aspect of my life, and I wouldn't be where I am today without it. It's kind of my foundation, my cinder block, and I'm built upon that. One aspect about Landmark that I really enjoyed, people talked about extracurricular activities, and I know that there are a lot more these days. I had a leadership. I was a student there at Landmark. I started at Landmark. I've always loved animals and horses. So after my first year at Landmark, and I joined the equestrian team, we rode at a barn nearby. I was nominated to be the team captain. And for me, it gave me that passion that I really loved doing, which was having a horse. After some time, I actually bought my first horse. And so it gave me that passion, and it taught me how to balance my life, recreational with my school, and then also my social life with friends. So it really taught me those things, and also responsibility. I had to pay an upkeep for the horse, so I had various summer jobs at the college, working in the admissions office, and then also working at different places in Brattleboro. So it gave me that responsibility, and again, more time management skills that Landmark taught me. So that was definitely a great bonus. And then one other club I was in at the time was a video club. It was amazing the room that we had to use. It was taking movie footage by VHS, and then mixing it with music, and then like kind of splicing and putting everything together. So now that can all be done on a smartphone. So it's pretty amazing how technology goes. But I feel that the extracurricular, whether it's sports or hobbies or art, any kind of special interest, it's so important, especially with students who have learning disabilities, to find success. And it doesn't even have to be that you're an expert in it. It's just that you find pleasure and enjoyment of doing something outside of the learning. And it triggers those different synapses in the brain and creates a balance. I feel that's really important. And Landmark really opens that up for anybody who has various interests. So I think that's enough about me. Thank you for listening. And now onward to Andrew.
Thank you, Genevieve. So my name is Andrew Garcia. I attended Landmark I think I joined up, if you will, in 2010. I was there for about 3 semesters and ended up graduating with my associate's degree in liberal studies. Prior to Landmark, I bounced between 3 different colleges over 2 years. My diagnosis is ADHD with a specific, difficulty, if you will, in executive function. So when it comes to organizing and prioritizing pretty much anything going on in my life, I like to compare it prior to Landmark as basically trying to keep a bunch of plates spinning up in the air at one time. And as soon as one started to fall, the rest of them started to fall. So for me, the biggest struggle in my life was really just kind of getting a grip on everything else going around me and kind of organizing that. So coming to Landmark, I don't know that I was necessarily ready to fully commit to everything that Landmark provided. I think I started off trying to do things my own way, and found that, ultimately came to the realization that doing things my own way got me to the level of success I had previously, which was very little. So, I actually took the time and effort to sort of listen and understand, what it was that Landmark was trying to teach me. It wasn't just subject matter. It was ultimately life skills. It was how to be an adult, basically. So, fast forward past graduation, I bounced around a little bit in jobs. Started off in tech support, did that for about a year. Found out that wasn't, what I wanted to do. I like to say that, nobody calls tech support to tell you you're doing a good job. So after about a year of getting kind of battered and bruised on the phones, my mother had grown up, when I was growing up, she was an HR director for about 5 different companies under an umbrella. So I knew I wanted to move in that direction, and I moved into technical recruiting for a staffing agency. And during my time at Landmark, I had actually been a student ambassador, giving tours and speaking at different professional events and things like that. And looking back on that, what I did at Landmark as a student ambassador and working with students and speaking to them about my experience and helping them understand the value of Landmark, it dovetailed almost perfectly into what I do today, which is talent acquisition and sourcing. So at the end of the day, I'm recruiting people. I started off at a staffing agency, worked for a couple of small digital agencies out of Boston. Then ultimately spent about 2 years at Wayfair building out their data science practice. So I did that for a little while. Spent about a little over a year and a half after that over at New Balance, hiring or sort of building out a sourcing function there for talent, as well as taking kind of the full lead on hiring their footwear design talent. So if you guys have seen like that new Kawhi Leonard basketball shoe that New Balance put out, I hired the lead designer that ultimately came in and worked directly with him to kind of build that out. So that was something that I've been pretty proud of over my career so far. And then since New Balance, I actually now work at Chewy. So I went back into the tech world, and at Chewy, I am a senior talent sourcer, specifically focusing on building out the data science practices across the whole organization. So really helping Chewy take that next step from being, what most people think of as kind of the Amazon of pet goods, and really allowing them to take that next step toward really being a true Silicon Valley-like tech company that just happens to sell pet goods. That's been sort of the trajectory of my career. To be honest, I wouldn't be where I am today had I not gone to Landmark. What I do today, is managing anywhere from 15 to 25 open positions at a time that all need candidates right now, with hiring managers that wanted to hire them last week. So, being able to manage that and understand who needs what, when, how to move them forward and make sure that you're not dropping all those plates, so to speak, wouldn't have been able to do that without, going to Landmark and learning what I had. As far as my alumni advisory board position, similar to Genevieve, I ultimately decided to get involved with Landmark post-graduation because it became much more clear to me what I had taken out of Landmark. And it made all that much more sense to me to help other folks, after me, kind of realize that same type of help and realize that same type of success. So I've helped out Tricia and the alumni group with mock interviews. I've done LinkedIn training sessions. I spoke at the Disability Matters conference down in Jupiter, Florida, representing the college. And to me, it's helped me both personally and professionally to actually have something that I'm truly passionate about outside of just my work. Work at the end of the day is work. We can feel happy about it. We can really like what we do, but at the end of the day, it's work. And to have something that you truly feel that passion for and that you can, kind of hang your hat on at the end of the day and say, I made a difference. That's really what's driven me to be an ambassador and be a part of this board. So I think that's just about, kind of all I have. Happy to answer any questions or anything like that might come up, but I guess I'll turn it back over to Chris.
Thanks, Andrew, and thanks all of you. Really, really great stuff that you all are sharing, and want to encourage audience members to submit questions for the entire panel, for specific people on the panel. I do want to mention that we are broadcasting this not only on the Conduit platform, but on two of our Facebook pages, our Facebook admissions page, as well as our main Facebook page using Facebook Live. And I just wanted to share some comments that are coming in these places. Doug saying, hi all, hope you have achieved success. And Doug also specifically saying hi to you, Andrew, saying that he's glad to hear of your experience. He's a Landmark College alum from around 1996. Another comment, somebody's saying that they really liked the metaphor about spinning plates. They say that that's exactly how they felt before Landmark, and that they own a pair of those shoes. So there you go. Your marketing is working well. Also says it's incredible to see how much success you've had after Landmark. And, I think I want to actually, before we get to some of the audience questions, as I listened to the various stories you all had, trying to think of common threads, because you all are geographically spread out. You're all in a lot of different professions, or the students now are certainly pursuing a lot of different professions here. But the common thread is the initiative you all had to take in order to get to where you are today, or even for the students to where you want to go. And I'm hoping some of you and maybe all of you can kind of speak about how Landmark and perhaps in your leadership roles, how that kind of helped you find that initiative and how to take that initiative. It'd be great to hear some of you share some of those thoughts around that theme of initiative.
I can say, at least for myself, certainly being a student ambassador, gave me an opportunity to kind of be that leader, that face of and at times the voice of the school, and really be able to connect with folks, not just, students and teachers and RAs and RDs, but folks outside, and kind of show them that difference that Landmarks has. And it was like a sense of accountability almost. I'll also say that John Wood, if we're talking about specific people, I wouldn't be where I am today without John Wood, the RD on campus and basketball coach. We butt heads at times. He was my RD at times. He was my coach, and he never gave up on me. In fact, he put me in a captain position on our basketball team, where it wasn't just about being a player on the team, but actually leading a group of people. And we had folks on the team that, floated in and out of, trouble or not trouble. And, I always kind of took it upon myself to kind of be that big brother that, tried to help show them that right path, at least during the season. So it was a great opportunity, and it kind of gave me that shot in the arm, if you will, that allowed me to kind of take that next step in my own personal growth and maturity to not just be a person or just be a player, but also be that leader that can kind of show and guide the way.
Thanks, Andrew. Really nice. Anyone else want to try and address that issue of initiative? Go ahead, Christopher.
Why, thank you. Okay, so we all have our own backgrounds. We all have our own stories and experience that brought us to Landmark. One thing that I think that is implicitly understood here, but I'm still going to say it anyway, is that we all have had some way of having to cope with our challenges before coming to Landmark. And at least in my case, I'm going to get to initiative in a second, but at least in my case, it was more a matter of compensating for my deficits rather than accommodating them. So I'll start this over. It was through Landmark that I had come up with a way of being able to accommodate my challenges by relying on my strengths to be able to work on those challenges that I had. Some folks, whether they come to Landmark, they may have come to Landmark as having a strong sports background, and therefore sports is what helped them get through. Other folks may have decided that they liked camping and stuff like that, and that's what they do. In my case, for me specifically, it was through scouting. I'm long and lanky, I'm tall, and I've had like the coordination of a newborn giraffe since I was a kid. But where I'm going with this, at least, is that through scouting, that all that type of stuff didn't matter. It's okay if you're kind of goofy and your coordination's a little off. As long as you can carry a backpack and go somewhere and work with people, you're set. But where I'm going with this, at least, is I am an Eagle Scout and recipient of the Vigil Honor and the National Eagle Scout Mentor Award. And I think the way that Landmark tweaked it for me was that after opening up the world to me, it's not so much a matter that I have to be involved with the activities. I'll state that again. It's not so much that I really want to be. That's the better phrase. It's not that I want to be involved in these things. It's that I absolutely have to be. It's a part of me. It's my drive. Some people are competitive where it's not that they want to win, they have to win. But in my case, it's that I have to participate in these things because these are what define me as a person.
Great. Thank you. Before I invite other people to talk about initiative, I have to say that in one of the Facebook comments, Gerald, you have a fan. Somebody named Corey has put 2 champagne glasses toasting and a heart emoji. So you've got a fan. I don't know if you invited that person to come or they're just a fan of you, but you got a fan there. Would you like to talk about this issue of initiative?
I actually don't know what to say. I didn't expect that.
Yeah, sir, didn't mean to embarrass you there.
No, it's fine. I mean, I'm kind of speechless right now. I didn't really expect fans of me specifically.
Well, I mean, talk about how you feel like Landmark Colleges maybe helped you take initiative on some of the things that you want to achieve, and specifically maybe being an ambassador. What has that done for you?
Growing up in elementary school, I was always the shy person. I would never talk to anybody ever. I guess that also progressed forward in middle school and high school. Community college, I sort of kind of grew out of my shell a little, but I kind of ended up going back into my shell. But Landmark gave me a lot of more opportunities than I would normally get back home. And I became some sort of opportunist when it came to just putting myself out there.
Gerald, I don't know if you remember this, but your interview will be one that I remember forever when you became a campus ambassador, because we asked you why you wanted to be a campus ambassador. And a lot of students will say, well, you want the leadership position or, whatever it may be. But your answer was, sometimes I need a little push. And this will push me because it pushes me to being uncomfortable, but that's the only way that I'm going to grow. It probably wasn't exactly verbatim but that was, I meant, it gives me chills to think about now. I meant, that's, I think, a true testament of just how strong Landmark's education can be when students are not necessarily academically being told to do something, but always pursuing other areas to grow in.
Nice. That actually segues well into a question that we have from Natalie that I think would be great to get just about everybody's perspective on. First of all, Natalie says, excellent and so encouraging, the thing she's hearing from you all. She says her daughter has several of these diagnoses, ASD, NVLD, ADHD. So she's asking what you recommend to approach with her daughter. Her daughter is very much pushing back at her parents suggesting Landmark College, and perhaps anything her parents are suggesting. And I'm sure some of you have a familiar experience with that. Maybe you can give Natalie some advice on how to talk to her daughter about why Landmark might be a good fit. Who wants to take that one?
I mean, I can take that one.
Great.
So I have personal experience with this because I did not think that when I first heard about the school, I did not think it was going to be a right fit for me. I had heard that it was a school that focuses on neurodivergent students. And I immediately, when I had heard that, because I had heard it from my parents who heard it from someone else and this and that, and I thought it was a long game of telephone and that it was going to be a much more handheld experience. Like it's almost the opposite of what Katie had said during her story, where she thought it was going to be them basically guiding you through everything. I thought it was going to be too much of that, and that I didn't want that. I wanted to be able to succeed on my own merit. But a lot of and I thought it was just going to be that most of the kids wouldn't be social. Like I didn't think there would be as much of a social environment. That is nowhere near as true as I thought it would ever, as I even thought it could be. In fact, this is probably one of the most open and welcoming campuses because everyone's had the same issues is probably the biggest thing. It doesn't matter what your diagnosis was or how long you've known about your diagnosis. Everyone had that same issue with learning. And everyone's here for the same reason. So everyone's a lot more open to just talking with each other because we all have that immediate common ground. And that's probably the biggest fit with Landmark is that everyone's got that in common. We struggled at some point with education. That's why we're here.
Well said, Jonathan. Thank you. Other folks on the panel want to respond to this? Again, asking about how to approach, this mother talking about how to approach her daughter who's pushing back about coming to Landmark College and having very similar diagnoses to a lot of you here on the panel.
Chris, I'd be willing to talk on that. This is Genevieve.
Thank you. Thanks.
You're welcome. I was in the similar spot as your daughter. I didn't want to go to a weird school. But what did it for me is my mom said, just give it a try. What happens if you didn't try ice cream? You would never enjoy ice cream. So she said that you don't have to, it's semester by semester. You don't have to commit for your lifetime, but just try one semester. And if you don't like it, I'm not going to make you do something that you're not going to want to do because my mom was also spending her money on me. So putting it into a much smaller, more palatable package of one semester versus, okay, you're going to be here for 2 years or maybe more, made it much more palatable for me. Also, when my mom and I decided that I would go, immediately we were driving distance. At the time I lived in Connecticut and it was only a 3-hour drive. So immediately she put on the calendar of the Parents Weekend, which is also homecoming weekend in late September. So I had, even though I was getting dropped off and they were saying goodbye, it was already on the calendar of when she would be back. visit me, and that she would be back for the weekend and stay the weekend in a hotel, and I could go with her to stay in a hotel. I didn't have to stay on campus. And then we could go touring around the town and eat out, or she would take me shopping or something. So that was already on the calendar. So I wasn't being dropped off, and it was like, I don't know when I'm going to see you again. And then after I was at the school, I would talk to her, and she said, okay, well, after Parents Weekend, let's get another date on the calendar when you can come home, or I can come up and see you again. So everything for me was just in little chunks. Needless to say, I was at the school for 3 years, and I loved the area and the school so much. I stayed up in Vermont those 3 summers, plus an additional 2 summers. I just couldn't get enough of the place. So that did it for me, and that helped for me. It wasn't as overwhelming. And as part of the AAB, the Alumni Advisory Board, I am more than willing to give that mom my phone number and my email. I don't mind talking to you at all, but really I'd like to talk to your daughter just so that she can pick my brain. We can do it over Zoom, since everything is on Zoom these days. And we can compare if our animals bomb our Zoom videos.
Thanks, Genevieve. That's really generous of you. But that is kind of what the AAB, one of the things that why you guys join the AAB is to mentor some of these younger students, and same with ambassadors. I don't know, Tricia, Sydney, you want to speak about that role for some of the folks here, and how they help prospective families.
Sure. I was going to add just one other piece. So I forgot to mention that I'm also an alum of Landmark, and I think that one of the greatest challenges that my family had was convincing me to go to Landmark and to try it. And one of the I think change and transition has always been a challenge for me, and often that is a challenge for a lot of students who attend Landmark, because so much of what we have experienced previously has taken so much effort to get to that point, whatever that point is, that it's an overwhelming thought to be in a new place with all new people around you and being asked to do things that you don't necessarily want to do. And so I think the more that you can break down the idea of college and breaking it down to, like Genevieve said about like putting things on the calendar and doing it in chunks, any type of experience that you can have living away from home during a summer. I know that's a little challenging these days, but even if it's just for a weekend, to get away from the parent and the student, because it would be good for both of you to learn what to expect in that new environment. And that will help both people understand how they can better prepare for college. And the more that you can do that now and break that down, the better that I think I would have done, and I think others would do, because it's not thinking about 4 years somewhere and you have no idea what to expect along the way. So connecting to people like Genevieve or all of our campus ambassadors, anyone really on this panel, I'm sure would be willing to speak, but we do this all the time, and sometimes it takes multiple conversations to get everyone comfortable.
Yeah, great. So yeah, anybody on the panel talk about how your position, either as an ambassador or alumni advisory board, how you feel that impacts the Landmark College community? And Tricia, you're allowed to speak too. So yeah.
I'll let them go, but I think
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say my joy in my job. I'm also an individual with learning disabilities. I was one of the people that learned about Landmark too late. I would have attended if I knew about it. But for me, I think the students and the alumni just, working together to share their stories is so valuable, and more than what I could ever do or anybody else could do. So I'm really appreciative of this, and continuing this opportunity. I really appreciate everybody kind of volunteering to provide that guidance even after this event. But I'll let people specifically answer that question, because I think people did have their hands up.
Yeah, I thought I saw Chris with his hand up.
So I'm now going to demonstrate executive functioning skills at peak performance. Could you please re-summarize the question for me?
Absolutely, yeah. Again, we just kind of like picking up on this thread about your position, and specifically for you being a member of the AAB, how you feel you're impacting the Landmark College community.
Okay, sure. So there's several ways to do it. So at least for me, there's several ways of doing this. So not only am I also on the Alumni Association Board, but I'm also a member of the Center for Neurodiversity's steering committee. So in a way, I'm a neat little liaison between the two organizations. So in some direct ways, the decisions that I make / we make are taken seriously by not just the Center for Neurodiversity, but also by Landmark College's Board of Trustees, by Landmark's administration and leadership. So in some ways, the decisions that we make and the input that we provide, I will say that it's less in the spotlight and it's more around or maybe outside of the spotlight at times. But that's not to say that we still can't also be doing what we do and how we do it. For me personally, I see Landmark as my second family. And some people might say that's a funny cliche and it sounds cheesy and all that other fun stuff. But the fact of the matter is that I feel like I really became more human and less, bear with me, less machine from my Landmark experience. And so consequently, whenever I see somebody who has got some sort of Landmark College identification, be it a koozie or swag or something in some capacity where they identify that they know of the college, I will instantaneously connect with them. But I also am comfortable now, thanks to Landmark, being able to go up to anybody seemingly and just say, "Hi, I'm Chris, who are you?" Where I'm going with this is that I have come to believe that family really does support family. So consequently, in whichever way it is that I can support Landmark, I will be involved in that capacity. So if it is in fact from anything from just writing a check, just about anybody can write a check, and that does help. Speaking as a student who receives scholarships, it does help. But there are other ways to also provide support back for Landmark. So regarding our actual input as members of the Alumni Association Board, for instance, we all provide our own ways and means of contributing to the betterment of Landmark with our own particular, I guess I would say our own particular joie de vivre, our own particular way of joy of life of making it happen. So I guess then the direct or indirect way of our contribution, it manifests itself, as I see it, every time that you have a student who says, "You know what, I fell down, but I'm getting up again." Or a student who started and finally is now finishing and is getting whatever degree it is that they're getting from Landmark, but they're getting it. Whenever we see that we have a student or a family member who is now starting to be more supportive of Landmark and the student's experience, I see all of that as wins, as successes, and as evidence of what we're doing.
Great, thanks. Anybody else want to speak to that topic? I didn't see if anybody else had their hand up about how your position and leadership helps in the community. If not, I do have, as we get down to the end here, I do have a kind of a jump ball question that I want to ask everybody. It's picking up on something Genevieve said about trying new flavors of ice cream. And so, you know, in the Barbara Walters style, what flavor of ice cream is Landmark College? And Genevieve, since you developed this metaphor, do you want to take the first shot and talk about what flavor of ice cream Landmark College is for you?
Well, I'd have to say, Chris, that sorbet comes in many different flavors. So I think Landmark College is a rainbow sorbet because it has so much to offer for all different kinds of people.
Terrific. All right, I'm just going to everybody at random here asking you what flavor of ice cream is Landmark College. Jonathan.
Put him in.
I didn't quite hear you, Jonathan. Did you say something?
He's thinking.
Oh, he's still thinking?
I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay.
God, I feel like now I'm just put on the spot, so I'm just like trying to think.
There's no wrong answer.
I got nothing. I was gonna say something and then immediately just boop, they're gone.
Okay, we'll go over to Katie. Katie, what flavor of ice cream is Landmark College?
Man, I immediately think of something like Rocky Road, where there's so many components in it, but they all blend beautifully together. Because like you can't just have one. You can't pick out one thing. They all like becomes this beautiful swirl.
I love it.
Sounds good. Chris, you an ice cream fan?
Yeah, but I like pie more, but I'll go with it. So since Landmark is many things to many people, I'm going to say Landmark's ice cream flavor is whatever your flavor you desire.
Sounds good. Sounds good. How about you, Andrew?
I mean, originally I was going to say Neapolitan, but Genevieve kind of grabbed that concept. But to be honest, I'd say you can kind of look at it as any flavor that comes out of Ben and Jerry's. You read what it is; it's completely off the wall. It's not something you had heard of, not necessarily something you expected. But at the end of the day, you're down at the bottom of that tub of ice cream, looking back at it, going, "I'm glad I did that."
Maybe we can get Ben and Jerry's to make a Landmark flavor. That would be kind of fun. Gerald, you want to field this one?
Originally, I was gonna say the strawberry chocolate and vanilla combo, but
Right.
I do want to say I guess one of the Ben and Jerry special flavors that they have for Jimmy Fallon or Stephen Colbert, mainly because of how unique it is, and it represents different people.
Well
that
said.
a lot of people know.
Well said. Jonathan, you want to take another crack at it?
All right. So I like how everyone brought up the Ben and Jerry's flavors. I think that was a really great idea because there's so many like unique things about Landmark. So I'm just gonna, the Ben and Jerry's brand. This is all, and there's something unique about Landmark that you can't get anywhere else. That you can't really just describe it with just one thing.
Well said. Well said. Sydney, you get to play too.
So originally, I like the whole Ben and Jerry's thing. I think that that's an excellent way to describe it. But I also think that Landmark could be described in, you could choose any flavor and blindly sort of grab all of the candy in front of you and put it in. And it would still work because it's ice cream and candy, and it usually all goes together. So I would say that too.
You're a toppings person, I can tell, right?
Just more of the candies with the cold. It's just one of those things. Love ice cream.
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, we're a Cold Stone Creamery type of thing. It matters the effort that you put into it, I think is.
Right. Well said. Well said, all of you. Thank you for indulging me. And now I think I need some dessert. As we close this webcast out, I want to thank Tricia, Sydney, Andrew, Christopher, Gerald, Katie, and Jonathan for their time this evening. I want to thank all of you in the audience for taking the time to tune in and to ask questions. And I want to let you know that we'll be back next week at this time, 6:30 on the Conduit platform. That is Thursday, April 1st, but no fooling. We will be talking about summer programs at that time. So hope to see you then. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you.